right, y'all. This is Chris with the Puppet Therapy Podcast. We are on episode 37. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing with us first generation immigrant, agency founder, podcast host, and foster parent Roman Prokopchuk.
Yep, close enough. Thank you for having me on.
How do you say it again? I'm sorry.
Prokopchuk?
Prokopchuk.
It's close enough. I mean, it is an intimidating last name. I mean, it's 10 letters, but I mean, when you say it, there's no crazy like vowel rules or anything in it. So,
yeah. Okay. So, Roman, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yep. So, first generation immigrant. I came to the U.S. From Ukraine with 600 family members to a 2-bedroom apartment in 1990. I had to go through Vienna, Austria, and Rome, Italy. That was kind of like how you got here if you had a sponsor, because the Soviet Union kind of started restricting kind of like the regulations in terms of immigration out. Ukraine got its independence in 92, so it was still under the Soviet Union. I went to school here. I had to learn English, obviously. I went right into kindergarten, learning that language. I don't think I have an accent, but if I came when I was like 15, I would probably have an accent right now just based on how the brain is programmed. I went to school at Rutgers University, graduated with a degree in criminal justice, interned with the Secret Service my last semester, and thought I was going to go into kind of law enforcement, hopefully federal. But then the recession happened in 2007, 2008. And state, local, federal agencies, froze hiring and spending. So for months I was looking for a job. I, got down. Only thing I really did was go to the gym to stay sane. And I met someone there that they basically said, "Hey, I have an opportunity for you. Come out after your workout to my car. I want to give you something," which obviously could have went several ways. So they opened their trunk and gave me a packet. 2008, packets still are given, I guess, paper form stuff. Yeah. And it was a 50-page packet about search engine optimization. So they said, "I have a need for this in terms of my business. Read this, go online for a month or two, and you can do it for me." And that's how I got started in digital marketing. I worked on about 600 clients at this point, Fortune 500 clients. I founded the agency in 2012 and have really ran with that opportunity. 2 years ago, my wife and I became foster parents. So since May 31st, 2018, we've had 20 children in our home. Currently have 4 during this whole, lockdown, whatever you want to call it, quarantine. And I have a podcast as well I've been doing for about 2.5 years. Switched over to an interview format last March of 2019. My grandfather passed away a month prior, and I think I switched over to an interview format to cope with that loss. So it helped in terms of the grieving process when I look back to it. And since then, I've interviewed in a year about 160, 170 people in different walks of life about their journeys, what motivates them, and basically what makes them tick.
Okay. Man, what a life. So you came from the Ukraine.
Yep.
Wait, I'm sorry, I might have missed it, but where are you living at now?
New Jersey.
New Jersey, okay. So you came from the Ukraine. So what was it like coming from the Ukraine straight to the U.S. at the age of 6? Because that's still a tender age.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know any different. I mean, I still got fed. I still had a roof over my head, although it was a 2-bedroom apartment, but like stuff like that doesn't faze me, And then I went to kindergarten. I think the hardest thing there was learning the language. And I think being assimilated in the culture wasn't as hard because I was so young. So I think maybe my parents and my grandparents had it a little harder in terms of learning the language, finding a job, so on and so forth. But for me, it was just, being taken care of and, going to school, learning the language. And when you're that young, you can pick up languages and obviously other information quickly and efficiently. So I think it took me a year and a half, 2 years to become super fluent. And I had to go to ESL, which is English second language. And then I guess tested out of that and kind of took it from there.
It's crazy the different walks of life that people come from. Because like if I just met you on the streets, I would never have guessed that you were from that you actually lived in Ukraine all the way up to the age of 6. But I guess at that age, it is like you said, it's a lot easier to mold you. Like, cause do you remember a lot of it?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I've been back twice. I mean, 2006 and 2008. So I think when I went back, my city, I'm from a city called Lviv, Lviv. It has about 1 million people. Okay. It's on the west side of Ukraine, so about 30, 40 miles from the Polish border.
Oh,
It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's about over 750 years old. So all crazy architecture and like super like European, cobblestone streets feel. So when
right.
I did go back, certain things I forgot. It was back, in my subconscious and started, taking me back to some of those things when I was, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. So
Mm.
I remember stuff like that. I still have family members there, and hopefully I can go back at some point. But I think my way of living is definitely molded to here now because when I was back, I mean, sometimes I would be back for like a month or two when I was in college and prior to that. And
Mm.
just like the way I process information is mainly like in English. It's hard if you talk to anybody that knows multiple languages, they can like, at least for me, switch over the way they think. So you can talk to me in English right now and I can
Mm.
process that in Ukrainian and then come back at you in English. But it's just like one of these like crazy things. And I think it's helped me in terms of knowing those multiple languages, in terms of like being creative and picking up knowledge in that sense as well.
Uh, I tried to pick up. So I lived in Sicily for 5 years. I tried to pick up Sicilian or Italian. Well, I tried to pick up the Sicilian version, which I didn't know I was picking up the Sicilian language until I went to Italy, and I was trying to speak Sicilian in Italy. And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I guess it was like it's like slang version of Italian, or like the ghetto version, as they call it. But yeah, that's all I know. I know a little bit of Spanish, very little. I think I know more Italian than I do Spanish, and then English. I'm basic. That's what's wrong with us Americans, huh? So,
Yeah, I don't know in terms of like mindset because like a lot of places you go in the world, like they'll know English and they'll know their own language. And I think in terms of the education system, they always push another language super young and oftentimes they get super fluent. I
mhm,
know in Ukraine and Eastern Europe, like obviously English, some other places in the world, Spanish. I think if you are in that part of the world, I think German as well because it has a dominant economy in Europe. But
yeah,
I know in Europe they push a lot in terms of education to learn more than one language.
yeah, okay. And you moved. You said in 1990. I was just born in 1990.
Yep, I was born in '84, so in August I'll be 36, which is crazy. But
Yeah, I'll be 30 this year. I'll be 30 in about a month. So I'm starting to feel old. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I'm 40, 50 years old already. I've put so much miles on my body, breaking it down, thinking that I was invincible and everything. But so so your parents, when they moved to is there a reason why they decided to move to the Ukraine, or why they moved to the Ukraine, or to the U.S. from the Ukraine?
one, like the immigration opened up, so before it was hard to kind of get out. Two, kind of like we came and because of technically like religious persecution. So in communism there is no religion, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we still kind of like went to church and obviously like suffered like negative consequences from that. And if people went to church or preach or whatever your religion is, sometimes they would be sent to like labor camps and disappear in terms of the KGB and stuff like that. So we had family here in terms of distant family, and to come here you needed that person to basically sponsor you, which is kind of vouching for you. If anything happens, they'll take care of you financially and
Okay.
what have you. And then we got that sponsorship. And the way you kind of came here, like I said, then you would have to go from Ukraine to Vienna, Austria, then Rome, Italy, and then here. So
Hmm. I didn't know anything about that religion, the whole persecution, all that stuff. That's crazy. Okay. Did I read? I might be wrong on this, but and I didn't hear you mention it just now. But about you being a veteran. So were you in the armed forces or this whole Secret Service?
no, I had an internship with the Secret Service. Funny
Okay.
story. Actually, during college, I was actually going to go into the Marine Corps as an officer. So I
Mm-hmm.
was going to go to officer candidate school because if you are in college and you graduate with a degree or, a bachelor's degree, you
Mm-hmm.
can go to Quantico, do kind of like the basic training, and you get a commission, a second lieutenant commission.
Right.
So sophomore, junior year, I thought I was going to do that, but I did not know that I had a ulcer caused by a bacteria called H. pylori for years,
Mm.
and it was eating away at my stomach at the point where I was
Oh,
working out or running. I was just spitting out blood. So I was literally gung ho one summer about to ship off to Quantico, about to do the pre-ship PFT, which is the physical, component to get you to go.
right.
And then I was literally like with the recruiting, like the person at the time, I actually officer recruiting station was on the USS Intrepid, on the West Side Highway of New York, which was kind of cool.
Hmm.
And I would be running with the major. I could not do the 3 mile run. I would stop every minute two and just cough out blood. So, I got tested for that, and they saw that I had that bacteria, and I went on like a cycle of antibiotics, and it's been, thank God, fine ever since. But if I pushed myself and was able to go, I would have probably died in that training component
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah, no kidding. Man, um, that stops a lot of people from going through this, because once you get in, like, let's say you found out that you had that diagnosis while you were already in for about a year or two, they would have found some way to retain you. But that's the hardest thing for people. A lot of people that say they want to join but they couldn't because they find out that they have some underlying autoimmune issue or something like that before they join. So that's unfortunate. Is that, I mean, it could have been a blessing in disguise too at the same time. But
Yeah,
unless you really, really want to be a Marine officer.
I did. I mean, it's funny because a lot of people there, like physically, me and this one dude I remember would destroy everything, like the O course, everything in terms of like sit up, push ups, pull ups, runs, and like physically, like I was there. I think mentally, I was a little bit more mature than other people because I know
Mm,
going for like the medical evaluation, there was people like, oh yeah, like all gung-ho about going to Iraq and places like that. I'm like, it's not like a game. This isn't like Call of Duty. Like, chill back a little bit.
yeah.
So I mean, I wanted to go, but I mean, I saw people there that like were coming from Ivy League schools and other schools around New York
Mm,
that when we're going to get 40, a 40-person team as a second lieutenant to command, they didn't really invoke like leadership. Or if you looked at them, I mean, they're like a buck 20, and I wouldn't necessarily want to follow them into battle, but
mhm.
that's just kind of my thing. I mean, it was a learning experience. I mean, if I think if I didn't have that ulcer, that could have probably killed me, and I didn't know it. Ulcer is one thing, but that bacteria, if you didn't treat the bacteria, you still have that ulcer.
Right.
So if I didn't have it, perhaps I would have continued it and went into it, and maybe I would have ended up still maybe in the Marine Corps as an officer, or transition something in terms of federal government, in terms of criminal justice or
Mhm.
that type of thing. But it might have been a blessing in disguise. But it's one of those things that defined me, and I moved on and went a different direction.
Yeah. So then that moved you over to, so you end up doing an intern with Secret Service. So did you not have to do like a physical training portion for that or anything?
No,
Okay.
I just need a 6-month background check to attain a top secret federal clearance. Because
You got a top secret clearance doing
yeah,
an intern?
yeah, you needed it because you see where like the president is, other
Yeah.
foreign dignitaries, so you're privy to that information, and then other things in terms of like how they function and stuff like that. So I had a retired Secret Service do the background check. I had
Mm,
to give several recommendations, like people that knew me for more than 10 years. They would talk to like my close friends if I was in any like terrorist organization, paramilitary, militias, foreign
mm,
type things. And it was pretty intense in terms of an intern. I was actually an intern on the counterfeit currency squad,
okay.
which is really interesting in terms of like money and processing. It's funny because they had the interns also check the mail for bombs and stuff through the
Mm.
X-ray machine. So it was like we were like the pawns, like dispensable here. You can check this if there's like a bomb or anthrax or whatever. You get to deal with that on a daily basis.
Right. And what year was this that you did the internship?
It was 2000, the fall of 2007. So it was the
2007.
last
Okay.
term of George W. Bush before
Yeah.
Obama got elected. So I actually went on a protective duty just to observe for one of George W. Bush's daughters, had like a book tour. So I saw how that protective function happened. They took
Mhm.
the interns out to the range. So we got to shoot all the guns they use, the
Right.
SIGs, which they have 357 ammo, because they're
Okay.
not basically like just maim you. They're like to put you down in that situation.
Right.
And then MP5s, and then their shotguns, which was cool as an intern as well.
Yeah. See, I didn't. I guess it's the word intern that kind of turns you away. I didn't think that they would give interns like a top secret clearance. Did they pay? They paid for it too.
No, I got credit, so I would
Okay.
have to do
Okay.
like a paper, and it went as one of my last classes for that.
Okay. I guess that makes a little bit more sense then. Yeah, because that's how secret clearance is no joke. Even people that's in now in the military, they like they love it and they hate at the same time because they always having to get the background checks every what is it every 5 years. You have to get the back.
Something like that. I never got it renewed, obviously, because I didn't go into law enforcement or with a federal agency, but it was just for that duration of time. I suppose I can mention if I needed it that I had it at one point. It might be a little easier for me to get it again
Right.
or renew it, but I mean, I didn't really have a need for it professionally afterwards.
Yeah. So why didn't you? So I'm sorry. So why didn't you decide to go with Secret Service? Like, why didn't you stay?
Well, for that, you still like it's a really like tedious process
Mm,
to get that. Usually, they also hire from other agencies and people with master's degrees, and
okay.
like the path they want you to take sometimes for that, they have a uniform division in DC. I didn't necessarily want to move to DC or be kind of like a beat cop per se. I mean,
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. And I also saw the type of life that they live. So every 2, 3 years, they have to switch posts around the country. One
Mm-hmm.
time in their career, they have to do the DC protective duty, which is the president, vice president, and that kind of thing.
Right.
And if your director in that office doesn't like you, they can send you out to like Fargo or Anchorage, Alaska, where there's one other person in the office and you kind of rot for 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
So thinking about wanting to start a family or having something more, consistent or building a foundation, I didn't think it would be cohesive to be moving, not fair to possible kids and wife I would have every few years to a different part of the country.
Yeah. I need to check on my friend. I have a friend that's in the Secret Service, but I never hear from him. Like, because I used to be in security forces in the Air Force, so I did that for like 6 years. Um, and he went out. He left after his 6 years was up and decided to go to the Secret Service as well. But you never hear anything. You never hear. Well, obviously, he's not going to talk too much about it. I mean, and yeah, I don't know. I never talked to him. I might hit him up and see how he's doing. See if he tell me anything cool. Maybe he won't. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
some things they're open about. I know, like I went out with agents for lunch and stuff, and they would say stuff like they're not necessarily probably supposed to tell me about like certain like protective details and being overseas and seeing some crazy stuff and
mm,
being annoyed also by like George W. Bush's daughters because they have a huge compound in Texas and they would throw these crazy parties which it would be impossible to keep track of people. So
yeah,
like 500 1,000 people show up. You don't know if somebody's friend or foe and it would just like make it super annoying to have all these drunk, college kids to watch and see if there was any threat. So there's
yeah,
stories like that and stuff on different missions around the world that they would say. So it was kind of interesting.
yeah. Like daughter, like father. I didn't know George W. Bush was as crazy as people. Well, I guess I don't know. Have you seen that movie that they came out about him?
No.
It's a movie, and apparently he was like a crazy partier and stuff. He was
Oh
like
yeah, I mean
bad.
like
He was
yeah.
bad.
Yeah,
Not
I
bad.
knew something about that. Like, I mean, like, I guess in his younger years, like drug use and stuff like that. I
Yeah,
know, like now he actually like for therapy things, he's actually a really good artist. He paints like
really.
veterans and stuff, and then auctions off the pieces to go to like wounded warrior foundations and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool, like in terms of his pivot now.
Yeah, it's funny how he turned like at first people couldn't stand him, they hated him, and now he turned into like one of the most loved people in the world, or at least in America. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean it's situational with like comparing him to let's say Trump or somebody else, and he's
yeah,
not in the limelight now. And I mean, I wouldn't really wish that job on anybody because good or bad, you get blamed for everything, and
right,
you're one person. You know what I mean? There's a lot of moving parts that you're not necessarily in control of as well.
yeah. Okay, so what would you say your biggest takeaway would be from interning with the Secret Service? Like, what would you take away from that?
Just understanding what a counterfeit bill is because like each thing is because that was my core responsibility as an intern, processing counterfeit currency and like categorizing it, and then it would be investigated because the Secret Service has dual duties. They have the protective side and then investigation for the the Treasury, the Federal Reserve. So
Mhm.
every field office basically sends out all these like counterfeit forms. So if a store gets a bill or several bills, they attach the bill with the form and send it. So if there's
Mhm.
a pattern or if it like makes sense, then they investigate it. Sometimes it was like literally like drug addicts that would print out like a $5 bill on your everyday printer. They're not going to investigate that. It was just like one of those things. But sometimes the bills are really good, hundreds that like really look good, like the watermark somewhat good,
Yeah.
like the strip for the backlight, black light when you put it on is good, the
Mm.
metal fibers are there, and other things. But for every bill, there's like hundreds of distinguishing factors that you eliminate down the road. So like if it looks good on these first 10 things, you go deeper with like a microscope or like a magnifying glass.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's like a line in the image like half connected and half not. So there's like a lot of kind of fail safes in that sense, which was like interesting for me how intricate it was. And I never really thought about it when I actually looked at, $100 bill or a $20 bill or what have you.
Yeah, I used to work. So I used to work at a place called Chicken Express in Texas, and the only thing that we knew if we got a bill that was $50 or twenty
Like you do
dollars, like
the marker.
yeah, the marker, and that's it. I'm like,
Nah.
oh, it's good to go. But I guess
Yeah,
someone
that's
like
nonsense.
could have passed that test, huh?
Yep, that's easy.
Wow, that's crazy. Oh, you said that's easy?
Yep.
Wow, man, I wonder how many counterfeit bills I've had in my hand in my lifetime.
Yeah, that's just the paper consistency. When you get the right paper, it'll make the right obviously mark. So
Okay, all right. So then in 2012, you founded your own agency called Nova Zara Digital.
yep.
Okay, and I see
Before
that's on your hat, right?
yep.
Okay. So what is that? What do you do with that? Obviously, it's a marketing company.
Yeah, mainly obviously amplifying brands online and creating visibility and letting them reach their target audience where obviously they spend most of their time through search engine optimization, optimizing obviously websites, through
Mm-hmm.
content, link building, technical conditions and circumstances on the back end of a site in terms of how a site is built, organic social strategy, paid social in terms of ads and campaigns, uh, paid search as well, online reputation management,
Mm-hmm.
content strategy, and a bunch of kind of other things in terms of emerging. So stuff with like audio ad buying, things moving into other places depending on where the internet is headed as well.
Okay. Shoot, you could probably be useful for me because we like trying to jump off the podcast and stuff. It was I don't know. I didn't realize how easy it was, but at the same time, I still feel like I'm learning something new every day. But it would be nice because I still have a full time job outside of this. It'd be nice to have someone trying to kind of help me out with that whole marketing scheme because I'm terrible at marketing. I literally
Yeah,
just share on Instagram, Facebook, and then I put this video on YouTube, and that's it. So,
yeah, I mean, there is a curve. I think one of the reasons that my show, I mean, it is a vanity metric, but I got it to number 45, the highest in
mhm.
Apple Podcasts for its category in the US, and it's gotten as high as 7 in Canada, 11 in the UK, and then obviously other English speaking markets. I think I was able to do that with my background in marketing because I already have that, thought process in terms of how to get something found and how to get it to perform.
Okay. Have you done this kind of off subject? Have you done a podcast in Ukraine before, like in that language? Or
No,
what?
but I've actually ranked in Ukraine like number 5
Oh,
for a
really?
period of time. Yeah, everything else, it's a different language and a different alphabet. So it's a Cyrillic alphabet. It's
Hmm.
totally different in terms of letters. So it is when I check the charts in Ukraine, I see mine all English. And then you have a bunch of stuff written in Cyrillic, which obviously I can read, write, and speak the language. So, but I haven't done it specifically for Ukraine or the Ukrainian market.
Okay. Hmm. And that's pretty much your biggest, or going back to the your agency. That's pretty much how you live and eat every day.
Yep. So the digital focus is what I do.
Okay.
The podcast is a passion project, and obviously, some things that come along. I do a lot of pro bono stuff in terms of marketing, helping nonprofits. A lot of the time, people just out of the blue will reach out. I guess I'm the type of person that'll just take half hour, a Zoom call or on a phone call, just
Hmm.
for them to like I'm trying to do this, so they may not have the funds to work with my company or me, but I can give them a starting point or what they can start doing on their own. And I hate people getting screwed over so they get a bad taste in their mouth about digital marketing because I feel like there's a lot of snake oil salesmen or charging outlandish amounts for hardly anything in terms of return. So
Hmm.
when somebody says, "Oh, can you take a look at this proposal someone sent me?" and I'll just say like, "This is straight up trash." You know what I mean? This is what you really need, and you're just going to throw money away.
Yeah.
So I like doing stuff like that in terms of helping people.
Okay. That's good. I appreciate people like you. So I definitely appreciate people like you because you've also talked about, you spoke about it when we started the podcast about how you foster 20 children. So, and that was one of my questions. I was like, when I read that, I was like, damn, does he have 20 kids in his house at one time, or is it like 20 kids total so far? So you said four, you have four right now in your house right now, right?
Yep.
So what's it like? So how old were you when you fostered your first kid?
So it was in 2018, so I was
Oh,
33.
okay. So it was recently.
Um, yeah, the story how we got into it. So me and my wife have had a infertility journey. So in the last
Mm-hmm.
3 years, we've had 5 miscarriages, and I've spent about like over 100K out of pocket because a lot of the insurance doesn't cover multiple treatments and stuff like that. So we thought with foster care, we're technically identified as foster to adopt. So we're open to adopting out of the system. So we thought it would be, a good opportunity to help kids regardless if we ended up with them, permanently, or they, stayed for a month, week, or year.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of kids. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of kids around the country in the foster care system, some not in the best homes. Obviously the system is broken. So we felt like, we can make a contribution in that sense.
Okay. What's the age range?
I mean, it's dependent on you. So like you can request younger children, older children, teenagers. For now, we've had kids from like 2 months all the way to 9 years, but
Okay.
usually it's around like preschool age, 2, 3, 4 year olds.
Okay. Hmm. I guess when I think of foster homes, I think of, once the kid reaches the age of 18, then they can go off and go on to do whatever it is that you want to do. So obviously you don't do that type of fostering, right? Well, I guess you're not. So you wouldn't consider yourself like an adoption parent, or
Like I said, I mean, state to state, it's different.
mhm.
Technically, our home is licensed to have up to 5 children at any time. It's dependent on the space and the bedrooms and kind of the legal setup in that sense. In New Jersey, when you're 18, you age out. There's some kids that are in the system that aren't adopted. They're basically the wards of the state. So the parents had their parental rights terminated and they weren't adopted. And they basically stay in foster homes. When they age out, they kind of like, cut ties. And it's sad because those kids have I think a 50% chance of ending up in gangs, on drugs, exploited, and other things like that. So I think it's important. One, there are success stories. We've been to events where kids are in college, and a lot of the kids aren't presented with the opportunities that they have. So they have like college assistants, different programs that can help them when they are aging out, so they don't like go the wrong way.
Right.
But I don't think it's as clear to them or presented to them in terms of the opportunities that they do have.
Yeah, that's a weird life to live, or that's not a normal life to live for kids to jump around place to place like that. So yeah, I guess once you do finally get out, and it'll be hard to try to find out who it is that you are without the right guidance and stuff, right?
Yeah,
So
one, or if they're not adopted and they feel like for them, like, why didn't one of these families adopt me? I mean, self-doubt, self-esteem issues,
yeah,
anxiety. Why didn't my biological parents abandon me, or like drugs or situations more important than me that they couldn't get me back? So all of this is running through them, including the things that they've seen or the things that were done to them for them to even end up in the system.
hmm I love hearing success stories for kids that grow up like that, and then they go out and be some successful person, whether they're a CEO or they own their own business or go play football or any kind of sports or whatever. I love hearing those stories because, like, it sounds crazy. So I had this conversation before with someone a couple of years ago, and I was like, because me, I can honestly say I don't think I've ever really had any hardships, and I think that's why I'm not saying I'm not a hard worker, but I feel like if I had like some type of bad traumatic event that happened to me, maybe I work a little bit harder towards something. Like I feel like everything that I has came easy to me. So like I grew up with both my parents. My parents made decent money. I joined the military. The military, you obviously never gonna get rich in the military, but we were taken care of pretty decently, especially in the Air Force. So and my wife, same thing. She grew up with her dad. She grew up pretty good, but we never really needed for anything. Everything was basically wants and stuff. So when I see someone coming from, not saying that they have an advantage, but I think they have more of a more willpower, more what's the word I'm looking for?
Well,
But
grit, and it's how they
yeah,
harness that. So, like I said, I think if they don't have the right person somewhere along the line to help them like mold that experience and harness that, I guess, pain and adversity to the right kind of drive, then
Yeah,
they're going to just spin out of control at some point as well. So it's what you choose to do it and who's there along the way to help you as well.
yeah. And I think maybe once if me and my wife if we are able to have kids, we plan on having kids here in a little bit. But maybe that's whenever I'll start working. Not saying I'm not working hard now. I do work hard now. It's just I'm working hard for me and one other person that doing just fine. I think if I have another person that's looking up to me, then yeah, maybe I'll try a little bit harder. But like this person's looking at me, I can't slack here because I do cut corners. Admittedly, I do cut corners here and there. So
Yeah, and I think drives and motivations change across your life. So when you do have a child or you're presented with something else and your mindset maybe changes even from the experiences and you know, like you said, the different things, variables that you're presented, that focus becomes a little different. You may work a little harder, you may harness that time you have a little bit differently. So I think it's like situational to what you're going through at that moment in time.
right. Man, I almost had a party foul. I forgot to plug up my laptop. It's almost died on us. Okay. So the miscarriage thing. So you've had 5 miscarriages. So what's it like coping with something like that? Because some of our listeners, they may be going through the same thing. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's even not to say that it's worse or better, but two of which were on back Christmas days when we had like relatives and stuff over. So like now
Oh,
Christmas has that negative connotation to it. Like we can't fully enjoy Christmas, but I mean, from the male perspective, I mean, like you deal with it. Sometimes you just get numb and you don't really express your feelings, which if you're obviously going through as a couple, your wife or partner may get frustrated about that you're not showing as much emotion about it or like, you know, a grief, but you are dealing with it. I mean, like I think the way I deal with something now, the gym isn't open, but like I vent through just working out. And I think one reason that I did start working out also is when I was little, I saw domestic abuse, you know, my dad, you know, beating my mom and my grandparents and stuff. And when she was pregnant with my younger brother, he like threw her down the stairs. He was supposed to be stillborn and stuff like that. So when I was little, I think I told myself internally that I'm going to get to a point that I'm going to protect the people around me. So like I was just like going beast mode in the gym. I got to like 240. I couldn't fit through like doors. Like people were like, "Oh, are you on the Rutgers football team?" I'm like, "No," but
like 240 solid?
yeah, like
Oh,
just like
geez.
massive. I mean, obviously I haven't been to the gym and that hasn't like I've been somewhat consistent, but like putting up like that max weight to the point where it like hurts my joints isn't a goal anymore.
Yeah.
But I think that's one reason that I wanted to get like that because my dad is like 6'3", 6'4", 250, 260.
Mhm.
So I mean, I would need to be somewhat of intimidating physically to if I ever got into an altercation. But
Yeah.
it was one reason like that. I think that was a healing mechanism. Obviously, we went to counseling for that as well. And obviously, that's something that doesn't go away, but you may learn how to kind of live with it a little bit, you know, more day to day.
Okay. I mean, if you don't mind, how'd your wife deal with it?
I mean, it's one of those things that don't go away at the moment. It's like you become numb and it sucked. Like I said, the two Christmases is like you have people over, like you can't like hide. Well, you can, but you know, they didn't even know that it happened. We didn't share with them that some of them don't even know that it happened while they were, you
Yeah.
know, in our home for those holidays as well.
Okay. Yeah. So with miscarriages, oh man, I gotta start writing things down when I'm talking to people because my mind just goes blank sometimes. But dang, I hate when I do that. I was literally thinking about something you triggered me with something that you said, not triggered in a bad way. I know that you can't say trigger no more. These are one of you.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not like a politically correct dude. You can say whatever you want. So.
Yeah. Oh, he triggered me. Or I
Yeah,
triggered.
I'm not the kind of person that gets triggered. So
Yeah. Oh, dang, I just had it on the tip of my tongue too. So with miscarriages, um, oh, that's what it was. So whenever how would you, and you can kind of you can talk about this a little bit too, since you may or may not have experienced it, but whenever people come up to you, are you married, you and your wife?
yep,
Okay. Okay.
yep. It
So
was
you
actually
and your wife married, but
last Sunday. It was 6 years.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
So 6 years of marriage, and people come up to you all, and they'll see that, like, let's say you're not with your foster kids, or you don't have any kids with you, and they ask if when you plan on having kids, how do you how do you respond to something like that, or how would you suggest my listeners to start asking people questions like, or do you just don't ask that question?
I mean, I think it's just like one of those like societal things that you ask, like,
Hmm.
oh, something about your family or friends. I
Yeah.
mean, it's dependent on the person how they react. I mean, if they learn how to cope or deal with that grief, how
Yeah.
soon it's happened, if it's happened on multiple occasions, and it's how you like come across asking you. I mean, sometimes it can be like rude or whatever, and
Yeah.
just like super direct, or you can like ask a question in terms of like your family or
Hmm.
how's it going or this and that. I mean, sometimes I think when people find out or say like they'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry," or like if they know it happened during that time. But
Hmm.
it's one of those things that like you say sorry because you say sorry, you're really sorry. So, I mean, I,
Yeah.
I think I would still ask, but position it in like a more caring manner per
Right.
se.
Yeah. So I work in equal opportunity office, and that question came up to me before, and the question was, how do you address people that don't have kids when they plan on having kids, and they actually have been trying to have kids and they have to miscarriage and stuff, and I was like, dang, I don't know, and I don't even I try not to
Yeah,
ask I try not to ask people that question anymore.
if it's like that, if it's straight up like when are you having kids? Well, some people don't want to have kids to begin with. So
Yeah.
I don't think if you're positioning like that, you may not even want to ask it. Like if it
Right.
becomes conversational when you start talking about your kids or like your nieces or nephews, and if it naturally goes into it,
Mhm.
maybe. But if that like that's your goal, when are you gonna have kids? One of those like, grandma questions when you go over your grandma's
Yeah.
house or whatever, your parents'
Yeah.
house, like if it's not your parents, then I don't think you should really be asking it like directing in that way, because
Right.
I mean it could offend or upset somebody. One, like I said, they could be dealing with something or they're not able to have kids to begin with,
Hmm.
or they just don't want kids, like in terms of lifestyle or whatever they want out of life.
Okay. Yeah. That's that's the I don't know. The society's so weird now, and me, I'm one of those people that I don't take nothing that people say personally, unless they're like paying my bills or anything. But other than that, like only if it's not my wife or my parents saying nothing crazy to me or saying something crazy to me, I really don't care. But yeah, I guess now like I'm a millennial. I think you're considered a millennial too, right?
Yep, like the latter, I guess, and I guess it started in
Like you're
I
like
guess
one of the first
80 or
ones.
82. Yeah, I'm like the,
Yeah.
the second, third, or fourth year of that.
Yeah. But now we have to definitely start watching what we say. I don't what's the new generation called? I forgot what they're called. They're like Z, not
Yeah,
Generation Z,
Gen Z or something like that, right?
yeah, so I have to watch what I say around now because I may offend somebody without even knowing it, and I'll just be saying something normal to me. Like I'll just like, okay, try a little bit harder next time. Stop being lazy or something like that. They start flipping out and stuff, but whatever, man. So, the next question. So, the gym is pretty much that's your therapy spot, right? That's what you do for therapy. So that's my therapeutic thing too. So, what kind of workouts do you do? Is it just you just do like a bro split or what?
I just do weights, mix it up sometimes. So I mean, I would say like 8 to 10 workouts. So like, I mean, your traditional, like usually I'll do like chest on Monday,
Okay.
back Tuesday, biceps, triceps Wednesday, shoulders and traps Thursday, and then Friday legs and abs, and then I'll just like run or play basketball or something where it's like you're not thinking about the treadmill, because I hate being on a treadmill. So
Yeah, I hate
something that
that.
incorporates running. I bought like a road bike when my first placement left to kind of deal with it, to push myself, because it's like an individual, like ultimately like your thoughts and your mind is like a you versus you battle, and
Mhm.
being on a bike is kind of like you're against yourself. So first time I got on it, I did like 40 miles on it, and then like uh, got it to like 100 200 miles in the month, and it was just kind of like to cope, like you said, so adding like a different layer of coping through like just kind of burning my body in a
Right.
way. Obviously it can get to a point where it's like destructive, but um Yeah, I mean that's been kind of my routine since I was, I guess, 18. So
Hmm.
from like 18 to 35, I've consistently worked out. And even if I, for some reason, stop like now, stop for a few months, it's
Right.
easier because of that muscle memory. Like, yeah, I'll jump into it. It takes me a little bit to gain that strength back, and it's fast in terms of like muscle growth and strength after because I have that, you know,
Hmm.
already. My body already, like, to a certain extent, remembers getting to that point.
Yeah. Did you play sports growing up or no?
In high school, one year I played football, then I played basketball, I did soccer, I did track, I did baseball. So I'm fairly like coordinated.
Okay.
Like speed is fairly like not the number one fastest person, but pretty fast in terms
Yeah.
of like everybody playing something. So
Okay. Yeah, that's what. So I train as well. I actually did my first bodybuilding show last year, and then now, so right now I'm kind of I got some workout equipment now. So I guess the question is, so for you, like, how do you get your workouts done now? Do you have like workout equipment at home?
it's like the Rocky workout right now.
Yeah,
Whatever I can lift, gallons of water,
it sucks,
whatever,
isn't it?
push-ups, dips, bags of dog food,
Yeah.
whatever is around basically, because I don't really have much. I mean, before I moved, before we got married and we moved into an apartment and then we own a home or whatever, I had weights, dumbbells, and stuff like that. But I mean, I sold it off
Hmm.
super cheap. But I looked on like Facebook Marketplace and online. I didn't know like dumbbells run like $2 a pound. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Now
So
they are.
yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy how people inflated those prices. I mean, I guess it's not crazy because it's a high commodity right now. So yeah, they want to make their money off of something that's high in value right now, or whatever. But yeah, so yeah, home workouts are terrible. I did it for it wasn't bad for like the first couple of weeks, like, but doing body weight workouts, it just didn't it doesn't get it. It didn't do it for me. I like lifting heavy weights and doing your typical bro splits and stuff. Mine's actually kind of opposite of yours. So I do chest on Friday. I did chest today, and I would do legs twice a week, buys, tries, and stuff. I have a Stairmaster. I just got that like a couple weeks ago. I love that thing. I hate it and love it at the same time. You've been on Stairmaster before, right?
yep. I mean, to a certain extent, it's great, but when I mean, my knees, like you said, like through sports and everything, they've been kind of beat up.
Yeah.
So when you start pushing them or whatever, you start like locking up and getting swollen, and
Mm,
especially on the Stairmaster. I mean, I like it, but it's like a gift and a curse.
yeah. Yeah. I put too many miles on my body, man. So your podcast, Digital Savage. So where'd you get that name from? I like that name.
Yeah,
Yes.
one the digital aspect is like me and my whole like I guess career journey and like I guess the opportunities you have. I mean, a lot of people have been on started companies in digital marketing and like the online space, and then I guess like the savage is just like every opportunity that I've been given, I've taken myself. I didn't ask permission, that any doors that were closed to me, I just made a new door or went around that and figured out my own route. I didn't depend or have any cosigns, moving up. I
Yeah.
learned everything because I wanted to learn it. I think information and knowledge in 2020, especially, is open source. And
Mhm.
ultimately, you have to make that first step in terms of learning something and creating something. So I think it's that kind of mindset.
Yeah. And your podcast is based off because I try to listen to I didn't try, I did. I listened to a couple of your episodes, and yours is basically off of it's more of an interview based podcast, right?
Yep, it switched over, like I said, on
Yeah.
about episode 80.
Okay.
To that, like I said, my grandfather passed away. He was a big role model in my life.
Mm.
And a month later, it switched over to interview because I felt like, because I worked remotely prior to COVID. So I had a lot of time to myself to think and take my mind into, places I didn't want to go. So I
Mm.
think switching over to an interview format, it really helped in the grieving process. And sometimes it would come up and people would discuss their losses and things they've struggled with that kind of help cope and kind of move on from that experience.
Yeah. I love podcasts. I like doing the interview format too. Like I'm kind of new to the whole interview. Like you are my fourth interview, I believe, with someone that I don't know at all because I don't know you at all. And I like learning. I like meeting new people and talking to people about stuff that like unprofessional stuff actually. Because I always have to interview people. Right, like right now we're going through something crazy with work. So I do. So like I said, I work equal opportunity, have like EO complaints and stuff like that. So and I always have to talk to people, and I'm not the biggest people person, which is odd because I'm working in human resources, right? So I like having conversation with people where we kind of can just shoot the shit, or I can learn something from somebody versus why'd you do this to this person? Why'd you say this to this person? I hate that because it's so not informal. It's so like not it's not great for interpersonal skills and stuff. So I like doing a podcast, and also there's like no ceiling. You can talk as long as you want. There's no commercial breaks or unless you like on a huge platform or something like that. Even like if you're on Joe Rogan's show, but we don't have like no time limit or anything like that. We just keep on going and going and going. So I like that about the podcast thing. So
Yeah, I mean it's unscripted. If you have it unscripted and like you don't have a radio station or whatever telling you about programming, actually Joe Rogan just got that Spotify bag, that
yeah,
100 million, but that's people think they bought it. That's just a licensing deal for a few years for his
mm-hmm.
whole catalog. Now they're for him specifically, but they've been working on it. They're creating a video platform to integrate with the audio. So he's moving everything really off of YouTube because that's one reason that I believe he's doing it, for that creative freedom. Because
Yeah,
YouTube censors, demonetizes, and just pushes their own things in terms of their own algorithms. And he's kind of tired with it. I mean, he's the number one, podcast technically around
yeah,
the world. He has
all over
like
the
200
world.
million downloads a month. So on the back end, on that ad end, he's probably going to get another 150 million. So, I mean, it validates podcasting, I think, and
Mm-hmm.
really like amplifies creators in terms of their value.
Yeah, I didn't even know you can watch. Can you watch videos now on Spotify?
No, they're
Okay.
literally coming out with this. I don't think it's only for Joe Rogan, but it's been in development. So it's going to be ready until he becomes exclusive on Spotify. So he's moving his whole video catalog over as well to that.
Yeah, I think that's supposed to come starting September 1st, I believe.
Yep, and by the end of the year, everything is supposed to be just exclusive to Spotify.
Yeah, that's gonna be pretty dope. So, how long did you say you started your podcast, or how long ago was it?
December of 2018. Yep, December of 2018.
Okay. So was it a slow start for you?
I didn't even have I didn't have all this. I started on a cell phone and
Yeah.
that's it.
Man, I try to tell people that. So people, they like, I have friends that would be great at podcasts. At least I think they would be great at podcasts, and they want to start one, but they see that I have equipment and stuff, and they be like, I don't have the time to get all that stuff. I'm like, you don't need that. You can start with just a cell phone. Like, even if you don't put it out, just start it. Just start your episodes, record them. You don't have to put them out there yet, but like at least get in the habit of doing it. And yeah, people think that you have to have all this fancy equipment and stuff, and you really don't. So so you say so yours is so was it, I guess I meant as far as like was it slow as far as getting people to listen to your podcast, but I guess for you, if you have a marketing agency, you probably already had to jump on everybody, right? Not jump on
Well,
everybody, but you already had an idea what it is that you wanted to do before you did it.
not necessarily. I mean, at first it was just like just me solely talking about my experiences as a foster parent, different things in terms of losses, different digital marketing strategy, because I feel people just sugarcoat stuff and don't give you like strategy. There's a lot of
Mm,
people that push courses on you that are like, common information that you could just do with a Google search. So really giving strategy, that kind of thing. And I think it started picking up to when I switched over to an interview format, because I provide a go live kit. Majority of the guests share it with their communities, which
mm,
then I basically piggyback off their communities, add subscribers and listens and downloads every time a episode goes on, and also going on other shows and sharing my story. And if I happen to mention my podcast has helped as well. At this point, it's like 124,000 downloads and plays. I mean, that's my own thing. I mean, I see people pushing, I just reached 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, 5,000, 100. That
yeah,
number doesn't matter. You should just be putting out stuff that you're proud of in terms of like the quality of the work, and
yeah,
hopefully the audio quality matches, because I think those are the two keys: adding value in terms of like something to the audience that makes sense and they can take something away from the content,
mhm,
and that listening experience is good in terms of the audio quality.
right. When I started mine, that's how I felt. I think I got like maybe 10, 15 downloads an episode or something like that. And I was just like, why am I doing this? And then started, people, if I look at it like this, if you have 15 people in a small room listen to you talk, I think that's a pretty decent audience. at least starting off from the jump. So that's the way I look at things. Some people, they see these low numbers because they're so intimidated by the other numbers that other people are getting. Like, how is this person getting top 100, or how is this person getting 100,000 downloads or whatever in a month and stuff? I'm like, it takes time. I'm still a beginner. Shoot, this is episode 37 right here. So
Yeah, it takes time, and where you start, you have to understand that some of these people jumping into it have like email lists of 100,000 people that then you just plug their podcast in as part of their, contacting sequence and
mm-hmm.
piggyback off those 100,000 with automatic listens and grow that way.
Yeah.
Or they're a celebrity, or they have some kind of like, media exposure that they already get an audience. I mean, it's harder for somebody out of nowhere, or you may not be visible in terms of like the media limelight, to really get an audience or get that amplification. But I think it's you keep going, and eventually, like, if it's good enough, people will find it. And like you said, I'd rather have 15 loyal listeners than like, people that may have listened to a minute or two, 1,000 people, and never came back or subscribed.
Yeah. And you see in some of the Facebook groups and stuff, you see people be like, I'll do a review for a review type thing. I don't like that, because that stuff seems so disingenuous to me. When you see people like review mine, I'll review yours and stuff. Well, I guess it helps for some people, but me, I'd rather do a word of mouth, to be honest. I think that's the best. So
yeah, and it's one of those things. If you do that, at least listen to an episode or two. You know what I mean? Some people just just create them and just do that, and that's to each their own. But if you are doing that, like, add some kind of value, and if you genuinely like it, then subscribe to it, or interact or engage with it, or get something out of it that's rewarding, instead of just like that one-off, basically.
Right. So how often does your episodes come out?
I try to release 2 a week, but right now I have 55 episodes in queue, which is a good problem to have.
Yeah, it is.
So I have a buffer of, like, if I follow that cadence about 6 months, I may move it to 3. But like I said, this isn't obviously a full-time job. I mean, it's a passion project right now, but I mean, it's growing. I mean, I actually interviewed one guy that I really appreciated. He was one of the founding members of the Medellin drug cartel, and his story.
That's the one I listen to.
Yeah, if you look at, like, a week before, he had an interview on Vlad TV, which is like 5 million subscribers, usually has like rappers and different people that were in like the drug game and stuff like that. So I appreciate it, and it's like a testament, for me at least, that he wanted to come on from like a show that has 5 million subscribers, that he found value in my show as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's dope. I listened to that one. That was an interesting episode you had there. And then I listened to I forgot the other one, but you got a lot of episodes out, man. And you said you got 55 in queue.
Yep. So I have 168 live. So with the 55 in queue, it should take me to like episode 222 or so.
Okay. You just dropped one. Was it yesterday?
Yesterday or the day before.
Yeah, I saw your name pop up on one of them, so I'm gonna have to check that one out. Yeah, I like your show. It sounds good. I love the name Digital Savage. You got some grit, I can tell, and you're a good person, dude.
Yeah, thank you. And the issue is also with COVID and outside of COVID, people have to understand that if they do remote interviews, you're basically dictated and guided by the internet connection. So like for that, the drug cartel person that changed his life, there was spotty connection on his end. There was only so much I can do to clean it up, or an audio producer can. But I think it's important to get that interview and tell that story, because sometimes there's different blips and cutoffs and stuff like that. So people have to understand, if it's a remote setting, things can happen. But obviously, I strive for the best quality of audio that I can put out.
Yeah. And I appreciate you using your audio too whenever you did the interview with me, because some people, if they're just going to be a guest on someone's show, they'll just use their headset mics and stuff. And it's like, it's fine. It hasn't bothered me at all, but I'd appreciate if you're a podcaster, use your podcast equipment as well, or try to integrate it with the podcast to help with that audio quality and stuff as well.
Yeah, and I do like video. Like, I make sure, even if you don't use the video, that it's like a decent viewing experience for somebody maybe looking at it. I mean, I've had one of the earlier episodes, somebody dialed in from their cell phone on their lunch break. You hear like wind going off, like a lot. I'm like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
would you show up to like an interview at like, I don't know, I mean, ABC News, like just like in pajamas, all disheveled? Like, I don't.
yeah, it's interesting, but I mean, it's whatever. Like right now, especially for me, I'm under 50 episodes, so I'll take whatever, not take whatever I can get, because I'm not just going to interview anybody just to get my numbers up. Like if you don't have no value, and I'm not saying I'm better than anybody, but don't just come on here and talk about, yeah, I don't know, I'm a history teacher and I have these kids and talking shit about the kids and stuff. Like have some type of value, you know. So that's all I say. I read your portfolio and everything sounds pretty dope, and you do provide value, especially with the crazy, not the crazy life. That's probably not the right word to use, but the journey that you've been on. You know, talk about all the grit and everything that you went through, and starting your own agency and everything. You got some dope experiences, and you're still young too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like you said you're turning 30, but like you have all those like I wake up, it's like it takes me a minute to like get up on my feet. My
Yeah,
ankles hurt, my knees, my elbows, my shoulders, my I mean, it's sad to say my back now hurts. So I
yeah,
understand when I was younger, like parents and stuff saying, "Oh, my back, it hurts so bad." Like
right.
sometimes I can't even get up, but I mean, it is what it is. You have to do what you with what you have.
I'm hoping that this is. I'm hoping that it doesn't get that much worse. You know, because like I'm just hoping. I don't know. Because shoot, I don't know if my body gets worse. Shoot, I'm not even 30 yet, and my body's all jacked up and stuff. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe they'll come out with some crazy. Maybe stem cell will get more advanced, and we'll be able to inject ourselves some new cells and stuff. Make everything work like you was 22 years old again or something. I don't know. But yeah, so Roman, I appreciate you coming on the show. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I mean, if anyone has any questions about any of the stuff that, I discussed or have any marketing questions or want to be a foster parent or are struggling with something, I mean, I'm happy to, you know, have a discussion, hit me up via, any social media platform, direct message, email, what have you. I mean, if you look for my name, I'm usually the number one, Roman Prokopchuk. Surprisingly, obviously in Eastern Europe, Roman is a common first name,
Yeah.
and there are other people that are last name Prokopchuk but not related to me. So if
Mm.
you find me on any social platform, you want to have a discussion or engage, I'm more than happy to do so.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna take you up on that offer myself, because I could use some. I think I could use some of your help. So
No, I'm always happy to point people in the right direction, and sometimes like see them like they can be doing things that aren't as hard as they think think it is in order
mm,
to achieve something or some kind of growth. Obviously not necessarily all growth happens right away, and you also have to consider, like we talked about podcasts, some podcasts are backed by ad money, you know what I mean?
yeah,
So each episode they push 1, 2, 3, 4, $5,000 to promote it. Obviously you're going to get play listens, downloads and subscribers through that. So
yeah,
if you're on a bootstrap budget and you're just grinding it out, you can't look at that kind of also.
yeah. All right, Roman. Well, shoot, been about an hour, so guess we'll go ahead and wrap this up. So usually I end the show with what is one thing that you do therapeutic every day, but we kind of already talked about that. Unless you want to talk about, unless there's anything else that you do that's therapeutic outside the gym.
I try to like, me personally, I have like always one song that's like my top song, and I'll play it out like hundreds of times, and then I move on to a next song. So
Okay.
whatever like that song is to get me in like the right, frame of mind or just hype me up a little bit. Or I know there's the Jocko podcast also. He
Mm,
was in like the special forces or the Navy SEALs, and
yeah.
sometimes he has like a motivating 3 4 like get up like whatever. So like just something motivating and then act on it, because a lot of people listen to a lot of motivating stuff, but then it ends there. They hype themselves up, get kind of endorphins levels up, but
Mm,
don't carry that over into reaching their goals or doing what they need to do. So I
right.
think sometimes like not everybody's always 100% motivated, but getting yourself back to that place I think is important.
All right. All right, y'all. This is episode 37 with Roman with the Plebiscite Therapy Podcast, and we are out. Thanks for listening.